Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. Today on the couch, I'm so excited to welcome author Louisa Luna to talk about her novel, Tell Me Who You Are. In Tell Me Who You Are, we meet Caroline Strange, a therapist with a seemingly perfect life living in Brooklyn. But when a new client claims he's going to kill someone and also knows her true identity, we see Caroline starting to think twice about who this person really is. Then it doesn't help. A woman goes missing. And even though the police is involved, Caroline believes she's the only person who can find the missing woman by tracking down this potentially dangerous patient. So we see Caroline balancing her life in Brooklyn, with her traumatic past coming to the surface, but we also get multiple perspectives as we get to hear from Caroline herself, the missing woman, and a mysterious figure from Caroline's childhood. So in this novel, you will get a psychological thriller with a narrative that's filled with tension and also unexpected twist. So in this episode, we talk about Louisa's novel, Tell Me Who You Are. We learn more about her reading and writing life, plus lots more. But before we get into the episode, please take a few seconds to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to the show. And don't forget to leave me that 5-star rating and write me a review if you love the show. And if you have something you'd like to share, click the Send Me a Text link in the show's description and let me know what you think about this episode. You can also use Spotify's Q&A feature if you're listening on that platform. So let me know if you've read Tell Me Who You Are, if you've read any of Louisa's previous books. How would you feel if you were a therapist and your patient said they were going to kill someone? Or you can just tell me about the last book you read and loved. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. So thanks in advance. And now onto the episode with author Louisa Luna. Hi friends, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me to talk about her novel, Tell Me Who You Are, is author Louisa Luna. Hi Louisa, welcome to the Reader's Couch.
Hi, Victoria. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on as well. Really enjoyed Tell Me Who You Are, and I can't wait for us to talk more about it. But before we get into the book, I know this isn't your first rodeo. You've published 6 books before, but how are you feeling now that Tell Me Who You Are is now out and available in the world?
I'm feeling great about it. It never stops being exciting, getting a new book out there, and it never stops being nerve-wracking. Both of those elements happening, but it is different that I feel like than anything else I've done before. It's certainly a bit of a turn from my most recent series, the Alice Vega series, which was more of a thriller, a set of thrillers revolving around a private investigator, a bounty hunter turned private investigator. So this is a very different thing. It's a multi-narrator thriller, but it's really all about my main protagonist, Dr. Caroline, and everything centers around her. And I was able to really get into her first person voice, which I haven't done in a very long time. So I'm excited to share it with people.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. And excitement and nerves sounds pretty normal to me indeed. But before we really get into the book and learn more about Dr. Caroline and Ellen and Gordon, tell our listeners about your new book, Tell Me Who You Are. What can readers expect? Essentially, tell us your elevator pitch for this novel.
Oh, okay. Tell Me Who You Are is, as I said before, is a multi-narrator thriller set in Park Slope, Brooklyn, which is a bougie Brooklyn neighborhood around the tail end of the pandemic. So it's 2021, June of 2021. The main protagonist is Dr. Caroline Strange, who is a psychiatrist who thinks she has it all together and is pretty sure she knows what's best for everyone around her. But everything changes for her when she gets a new patient who makes a pair of confessions to her. I think I'm going to kill someone and I know who you really are. We're set on a dual timeline and journey with Dr. Caroline trying to find a woman who her patient has kidnapped, but also she's forced to delve back into her past. So we uncover who she is as we are reading about her, Dr. Caroline, that is, but also as she is trying to solve this current mystery.
So yes, the novel really goes off to solve this mystery, but at the center is Dr. Caroline. And I want us to talk about her a little. She is married. She has a husband. She also has 2 children, 2 sons, and she's really living a bit of a posh life, very kind of fancy and very expensive things and just very polished and nice. However, she seems a bit distant sometimes when it comes to her own family. She has some nicknames for some of her patients, but she also has a bit of a traumatic history as well. And she comes with some baggage, which, as you read, readers will find out. But tell us about Dr. Caroline, who she is as a character, what's going on in her life, and tell me about the inspiration for her character.
Well, I feel she is one of these characters, usually they are. And to say she's complicated, I think is a little bit reductive because I think humans are complicated in general, but she's certainly got some layers there. And you may not really like her. She's a little bit, if you met her, she'll think she's smarter than you. She does enjoy these sort of the finer things in life. And she came from fairly humble upbringing. So she is really reveling in the fact that she can afford these things now. So I wanted to write a character who was the epitome of the unreliable character, but also someone who was very funny, very sharp. Again, who you may not like, but you are drawn to anyway, and who you have to keep listening to. So that was exciting for me. And she casts her experiences in a certain light. And as the reader, you're consistently trying to figure out how much is she telling you and how much is she not telling you. However, I feel there's also another side or another element of her that is very honest and is telling you everything you need to know when you need to know it. And that's obviously another part of her character is she feels she's the all-knowing psychiatrist, or in her family, the all-knowing mother, the all-knowing wife, is that she really only, and again, I don't know if I personally would want to take like a road trip with her, but I certainly, I think she's brilliant. I think she's funny, but yes, definitely cold and detached works its way in there as well. So yes, in a word, complicated, but again, there's so much more to it than that.
Yes, absolutely. Now, like you said at the top, first off, she's a therapist and she gets a client who says he's going to kill someone and he knows who she really is. And of course, she jumps into action there. Now, we see the police get involved, but Caroline feels, hey, she can do a much better job than them. A woman has gone missing, and she's the person who can find this woman by tracking her down and hopefully finding the client that said this to her. That's essentially like the main driving fact in the story. However, we don't just get Caroline's perspective. You also mentioned we get different perspectives. We also get the perspective of the missing woman, Ellen. Tell our listeners a bit about Ellen and who she is.
Ellen Garcia is the missing woman, the woman who has been kidnapped by Dr. Caroline's patient. And so we get her point of view trapped and trying to figure out who has kidnapped her and why. And she's in and out, maybe of consciousness because she doesn't have much food or water. And so we get to know her in this very extreme circumstance, but she is a freelance journalist. She is, a writer. She's a single mother coming off of COVID, obviously, that it's a trying time for everyone, but I would think that single parents have their own unique challenges there. And she's very smart also. So I think she does the two narratives of her and Dr. Caroline play off each other very well. And I think they have a through line, which is motherhood and trying to do everything, trying to be successful in life and maybe succeeding and maybe not. I think the key difference between Dr. Caroline and Ellen is that Dr. Caroline believes she's doing everything perfectly. And I think Ellen really grapples with the fact that she feels like she's not doing anything right, which again, I think are two sides of the same coin in terms of motherhood. And at the end of the day, feeling, man, I wish I had done that better with my kid or something like that. So it was fun writing Ellen. It was a much different flavor than Caroline, but she felt very close to me in terms of being a writer and a mom and consistently feeling like you're running on a hamster wheel, which I would be lying if I didn't feel that way a lot of the time. So yes, I feel like those two narratives really go side by side. And then I don't want to give away any spoilers here, but Ellen does and have a view of Dr. Caroline that is revealed. And so for the reader, it's fun to piece Dr. Caroline together through other people and not just take her word for it. So she serves many purposes there.
Yes, and I couldn't agree with you more about Ellen and Caroline being two sides to the same coin. Right. Yes, because that's how I view them as well. And in terms of relatability, yes, Ellen is for sure more relatable. But we also see the contrast with Dr. Caroline. We also hear from Gordon, who's a neighbor from Caroline's childhood back where she's from. So tell us a bit about Gordon and why you decided to include his perspective.
Yeah. Poor Gordon. So Gordon was Dr. Caroline's neighbor growing up. He's an adult in the 90s when that storyline takes place in that timeline. And again, he serves the larger purpose in the book of giving us, as the reader, yet another view of Dr. Caroline, one when she's 13, which was a pretty formative time for a young woman to have this adult man perspective for the reader, I think is pretty priceless. He himself is a very working class guy in Wisconsin. And again, I want to be mindful of steering clear of spoilers, so I won't say too much about him and his particular path, but he has just lost his job. And so he's trying to make sense of things as well. And feeling a little bit on the edge, a little bit desperate, and a little bit, I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to.
Yes, it's so hard to talk about books sometimes, especially thrillers. I have to tell you, especially thrillers, because you don't want to give away too much. But I promise you, listeners, there are lots of twists. This one, really fun. And again, you get these three perspectives. So just a quick recap. Dr. Caroline, a very posh therapist. She seems very distant, in my opinion. She has a patient that comes in that says, hey, he's going to kill someone, but he also knows who Caroline really is. And then we see Caroline going on the search for a missing woman. We get the missing woman's point of view, who is Ellen. And we also hear from Gordon, who was Caroline's neighbor back in her childhood. So we get these three perspectives. Again, we see things being revealed, but I just love the fact, Louisa, that we got just so many twists. And it was really delightful. And it was just also a very clever book too. So I really enjoyed seeing Dr. Caroline and also the tension with each page. And again, we get the plot and we get the twist. So readers, you have lots of fun to look forward to. I'm curious, though, about your writing life, because you had a previous series. Again, this is my first book by you, so I'm not familiar with the Alice Vega series. But just in case our listeners might know you, and then for those who don't, tell us about that series and what can readers expect if they decide to go back and check out your books, Two Girls Down, The Janes, and then Hideout.
So it is, as I said at the top of the show, I would say not a total departure. Tell Me Who You Are is not a total departure. I think if the readers who love the Vega series, I think will definitely like and love Tell Me Who You Are. And I hope the reverse is true as well. It's a 3-book series, possibly more in the future. I haven't ruled that out, so there's no immediate plans, but about a bounty hunter turned private investigator named Alice Vega, who really is no nonsense. So she does have perhaps that in common with Dr. Caroline, but no nonsense and has a real moral compass and sense of social justice. And so she and her sometimes business partner, Max Kaplan, who's a former cop, solve missing persons cases together, usually young people or children. So it was a lot of fun writing those series, but they're a little bit harder for me to write, to be honest, because they're very heavily plotted. There is a lot of police procedural type of activity. So it just takes a different sort of mindset to sit down and work on it. But they're good stories and they're really good mysteries. And I like to think there are twists there too. Again, maybe not as many as Dr. Caroline, but there are some good twists and it's just some good stories. So I think readers will like both or all.
Yay, I love that. I love that. So now I'm also curious. So seeing that there are no immediate plans for your Alice Vega series, but are you working on or planning for another thriller in the vein of Tell Me Who You Are?
I am working on something, but it's a bit new-ish, so I don't want to say too much. There is a thriller element, but it's something different for me. And again, I don't want to say too much because it's still taking shape. So as you can see, I think by Tell Me Who You Are, my work is very character driven. I'm not, even though I do have a lot of plot, because I think you really need to with mysteries and thrillers. My work is very character driven, so I just have to get quiet and see where the characters are going to lead me.
I get that. That makes complete sense. But needless to say, you'll probably be writing something. Listeners, keep an eye out. Okay, I want to get into your reading life as well, because I know we're here to talk about Tell Me Who You Are, but I love hearing the books that authors are reading and loving. So share with us some of your favorite psychological thrillers.
So I was thinking about this, and my psychological thriller and thriller list tends to overlap with neighboring genres. I would say psychological thrillers and also literary thrillers. And sometimes I really don't know the difference. I have to be honest. I'm sure I could Google it. I'm sure there's like a chart somewhere, but I just, that's the bridge too far for me. So these are some of my favorites, some classics. Some of them I'm sure, or most of them I'm sure your readers have heard of. So I have to start with Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. That's just the ultimate. For me, there is really no moment like the moment in the middle when we switch to Amy's point of view. I don't think that can ever be replicated in any book ever. We just want to drop the book and just be like, you are kidding me, in a good way. You, but the original You by Caroline Kepnes, I think is really masterfully done and just oppressive and weird. And again, is it a psychological thriller? Is it a literary thriller? I'm not sure, but I love that one. Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh. That I think might be considered more of a noir piece, but to me it reads like a thriller. And I thought of Eileen and I've tried to emulate it with Dr. Caroline because I think that her voice, that first person narrative was so unique and so funny. And looking on this incredibly dark story with so much humor, that seemed to me like a bit of a magic trick. And so I was trying to emulate that kind of thing with Dr. Caroline and Tell Me Who You Are. See what else? Oh, I love the book I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai that came out last year. I just thought it was great. I just thought it was perfect in that, again, great first-person narrative that keeps you going and does keep you guessing as well. You really don't know what's happening. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. That book is bananas. I don't know how to describe it. It is, if I told you the plot, you would say, I don't know if I want to read that. I don't know if I can read that, just because it's been called, which I think this is a bit reductive, but it's the easiest comp I can come up with. It has been called The Female Side of American Psycho. It's an Alice book. But again, I think this is so much better. A Certain Hunger is gorgeous and really beautifully written story about a serial killer, a female serial killer. I don't know how else to tell you. I'm sorry to say. It really is.
Gosh, you're picking some good ones here.
Yes. Yeah. And I could go on, but did you want some other books?
So now I'm very curious about the books that you read and loved when you were younger. So tell me about some of your childhood favorites.
I think the childhood pre-high school, probably along the line with whatever I was reading in school. I remember really loving Wrinkle in Time and anything that really pushed the limit of reality, just total different worlds. And again, I wasn't even a huge sci-fi or fantasy reader, but I really appreciated that kind of writing. But when I got to high school, the stuff that I was reading when I was supposed to be reading classics for school, and classics are great. I enjoyed The Red Badge of Courage and Huck Finn and all that, but I was really drawn to first-person narratives. And Catcher in the Rye, of course, is a big one. But there was another book by Jay McInerney called Story of My Life, which was a first-person narrative of basically a party girl in New York who was 20. And I thought it was so, so glamorous. And also that character was very funny. And so you're seeing, right now, a through line of like narratives that have spoken to me. I think anything that could tell the story effectively and keep me entertained, like so entertained. That is what I have been drawn to. And that's what I obviously am hoping to do, because I think that when you get a good narrator, you'll just go anywhere with them. It's like the writer Anne Lamott said she loved the actor Anthony Hopkins and could listen to him read the phone book. It's the same thing with a good narrator. You just feel like you'll just follow them anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. On the show, we also love indie booksellers. So share with our listeners some of your favorite local indies.
Well, in Brooklyn, we have many, but I'll tell you the ones in my neighborhood that I go to all the time. I go to Community Bookstore, which is on 7th Avenue in Brooklyn. And then it has a sister shop in a neighboring neighborhood called Terrace Books. And I'm so happy, proud, and honored to say that Tell Me Who You Are is in the window of both of these stores right now. There is also in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn Heights, Books Are Magic, which is a great store. Those are my favorite. And those are the ones I go to with the most regularity. Growing up in San Francisco, there was a great indie bookstore called Solar Lights, which is no longer there. And I only mention it because it was pretty formative for me being a kid, just walking in. It was walking distance from my house and just walking in and sitting on one of the chairs and just reading books and looking at the shelves. So I think that indies are pretty priceless in terms of in terms of inspiring writers and readers.
Absolutely, they are, which is why we love them here on the show.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. But getting back to your book, Tell Me Who You Are. What are you hoping in an ideal world readers might think or feel, or conversations they might have with their friends after they've turned the last page?
I really like to keep it open. I want people to just read it and let it bounce off them. And I hope they love it. And it's obviously, like all books, something I feel like I'm just learning at age 50 is not every book is for every person. You may have had an experience where you read a bestseller or you read something that's been critically acclaimed and you're reading it and you're like, I don't know, I just don't get this. Like, I just don't feel this. And so I do feel like it may not be for everyone, but that's okay. What I want people to do is just have a great read, have a lot of fun, and maybe laugh and maybe think. And I hope for them to enjoy it. But yes, I would love to leave it open. Just people should read it. And then in terms of talking about it afterwards, I would love to think of two readers who have read it saying, OMG, did you see that coming? Page whatever. I didn't. So I love that as well. I love being surprised as a reader. I think that's one of the most fun things that can be. So I hope to provide that for my readers.
I think you did that in this one. Tell me who you are, because it was an absolute ride. I had so much fun. Yay. I hope more readers will pick up a copy and hopefully send me a message and let me know what you think too. Louisa, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. This was fun.
Thank you, Victoria. I could talk with you all day, but I'm sure you have other things to do.
More books to read and love.
Yeah, you got to do your homework.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening, and happy reading.